Yo, what is going on, guys? And today I'm going to be talking about the new hotfix that 2K has dropped into 2K21. I kind of want to go over what I believe their thoughts were going into this, my thoughts on it, and what I believe, where I think they should have gone with this and where I think they should go with this here in the future, as well as going over some people's opinions on both sides of things to see where people are at. And I would like to know what you guys think down in the comments, but just jumping right into it. So, talking about 2K's tweet first off, so NBA 2K did tweet, the hotfix saying that they made a hotfix for shooting to rookie, pro, and all-star, and they did not touch any higher difficulties or the neighborhood. Now, honestly, I get the neighborhood is its own thing, and I know a lot of people will argue that, and like I've had even one friend kind of replying to me saying like, well, this is how I grind badges. I grind it in the park all the time, but it's impossible to grind right now when you can't hit anything, and he'll continue to be that way, unfortunately, because the neighborhood is still, you're still not able to really shoot well in there since they didn't get the hotfix. So as far as that goes for badge grinding and everything like that, I get it, and it's really tough, and I think they're sort of forcing more players into, I assume, trying to be like, all right, well, it's difficult in my career to grind badges. Let's boost the difficulties up of that. If you play Superstar Hall of Fame, though, it's going to be more difficult, but I guess they sort of want to ease people in to be like, yeah, you can play on like All-Star or Pro, and grind your badges that way. And so I don't know too much about grinding badges. I really haven't played my career the last couple of years to know, but I'm going to be talking more so on just the 5v5 side of things, and of course more specifically my team, but just talking about that. So first off, like I said, I want to explain where I think they were coming from with this, and I get where they're coming from, because when you look at rookie, pro, and all-star, like when I played my league last year, I did play a lot of my league because I liked my league. It was fun. I like just having that association mode always there whenever I feel bored or just want to like control a team in that way and have a little more say in it, I guess, versus just building this fantasy team here on my team and doing that. So it just gives me a little bit of a different, experience. But when you look at the teams that you have in there, for example, I'll take the Dallas Mavericks, they have some good rated players, don't get me wrong, but you look at that, aside from like Luka and Kristaps, a couple of those guys, that's almost like a starter my team, you know what I mean, with the overalls and how they kind of relate to it, with like mid 80s to like mid 70s, kind of like that range is where you're looking at for overalls. I kind of, I kind of can compare the two. And so looking at that, at least comparing it to last year, when I played that, when I would play on like all-star or pro or rookie, I would obviously dominate. And I don't have to have like a team, like a 99 overall team hack or anything like that on my team. I'd be sitting there with decent players being able to dominate. And this is just on my league where they barely have badges and, different stuff like that. So, I enjoyed the experience because then when I bumped it up I would even bump it up to Superstar and I would have an easier time. And so once I bumped it up to Hall of Fame, I'm like, at least now I have a challenge in association or my league. I had more of a challenge and I like that. So, again, I get where they were kind of coming from with this change because, they believe, yeah, okay, the lower difficulty should be a bit easier to shoot and the higher difficulty should stay where they're at. So Superstar and Hall of Fame should be harder to shoot on. But the problem is especially when you're playing online, that can make a big difference. I just think they didn't have to make it as drastic as it was, because I think now where it is like, it's like, we take a look at the numbers and some people even said like, oh yeah, well, if you take a look at, what it was before, you're shooting like 20%, now you're shooting 80 to 90%. And so if I wanted to, compare the two, that I think, where we're at now, Hall of Fame and Superstar, you're shooting about like 20 to 30%, whereas now with All-Star and Pro and Rookie, you're shooting 80 to 90%. And what I think they needed to do was try and find like a middle ground and say, all right, well, what I think they need to do now is sort of bump those other ones down, bump the shooting hotfix down, and make Hall of Fame and Superstar just a little easier. Not by much, again, just a couple of percentage points, but I feel like it's just slightly too difficult. And I think a lot of people can agree with me on that. That it could use a slight change, but it doesn't need to be this bad, especially when they have something implemented like the shot stick. And that's kind of where they were at with the shot stick. A lot of people wanted to say, oh, well, I don't want to, have to change my play just so I can play the game and shoot and all that. And I feel you 100%. If I just want to play like normally, if I'm trying to play like domination or my league or whatever, I shouldn't be having this hard of a time to shoot, when I'm just trying to be even casual. And that's kind of what this is more for. And so, but when it comes to more competitive stuff, like I feel like what my team should be, I shouldn't be having to, sit there defending as hard as I am, trying to guard these guys hitting 90% of their shots when they shouldn't be. And, people will say like, oh, well, I have guys like Clay and, whoever else with high 93 balls and they should be hitting all their open shots. But in reality, they should hit a high percentage, but they shouldn't be hitting every shot. Because you're in a game, you're not in, a freestyle or practice where these guys are hitting. And even in practice, like, they're not going to be hitting all of their open shots. They'll be hitting a high percentage, of course, but they're not going to be hitting all of their open shots. And I think that's just the reality of it. And so, this is always dependent on whether 2K is trying to be more realistic or more simulation. And people will say, oh, it's just a video game, But the whole point is, that's what are you trying to do? Are you trying to create a simulation game where it's supposed to be a little more realistic? Or are you trying to create a game where it's like NBA Jam? So it just all depends on where you're trying to be at. And kind of going into this, I'm going to go into this thread with DBG and Shake and Bake. They kind of go over a few things, and I kind of want to explain my thoughts on it, because I think a few of their points that they make do, kind of cover both sides, and, sort of how I can explain kind of where I'm at with it. So DBG tweeted, he said, it took less than 3 days until the game became 2K20 endgame with all 99 three-pointers all over again, showing that, even though it's only 11 three-pointers, he went 9 for 11 from outside, and so, he's starting to hit it at a higher clip. And, Shake responds, it says, I'll say it here and now, I'll take players shooting high percentages over ridiculously low ones. Now you actually have to play some defense and can't just sit there relying on everything missing. I kind of disagree with that statement because of the fact, and I'll get to when he brings it up more in a second with another position, because I get the whole defense thing. The problem is with how high they've boosted the shooting, we're back to hitting stupid contested shots, and I think that's something that should never be in the game. Again, I get it can happen, every now and again, but I shouldn't be hitting 30 to 40% so much, or even greening them. DBG kind of says, he's like, oh, I'm going to hold your word to it, because he's like, if, better not say anything then or complain, when it comes down to a month or two from now, like, you shouldn't be complaining about it since you've just said you'd rather have this. Maybe because he did it before, I don't know. But Shake and Bake then responded saying, it shouldn't be meta to be forced to drive the whole game or sit in the paint in a zone not moving at all. And so, he talks about how he played TTO and a lot of people were missing shots. And I get that notion, because that's what the game was the first couple of days. It was either on defense, you're playing zone, or you're just trying to clog up the paint as much as you could, or on the offensive end, you were just trying to drive to the paint as much as you could because of the fact that you couldn't really shoot. And you could occasionally take mid-range shots. I think mid-ranges were okay, and I think three-pointers should have basically been where mid-range was at. But even then, some people didn't really like that you couldn't make too many mid-range shots. It just kind of all varies. But I personally liked where the mid-range kind of cap was at. So if three-pointers were able to be boosted up just enough to get to that, I would have preferred that. But I get where he's coming from with that. So, I get that notion, but again, it shouldn't be this drastic of a boost. And so DBG even explains here, it wasn't the meta if you played with someone who actually took the tips given by the devs and used stick shooting with the L2 timing. And he talks about his success with that. Now, someone did respond saying no one has that time, or no one has the time for that. Plus, it shouldn't be that hard to just shoot the basketball. I get that. I really do. But that's the whole point of this, was they were trying to, where they saw where the competitive scene was coming out with all these My Team tournaments and everything, I think they really took a look at that and said, you know what, we need to make it a little more difficult, or at least make it to where these people who are really going to try it, like some guys like Ty, Ty is so gung-ho about trying to get better at stick shooting, and I love that, because I'm like, yeah, dude, you are where you were at because, you've played the game so much, you got better and better and better at it, and when you see, like, well, if I need to be better at shooting at this game now, I gotta try it with the stick. And maybe he'll agree with me, maybe not, in terms of that this boost was necessary, or at least just the notion of it, not that it needed to be this much. Now, it did become kind of a point, like, yeah, the shooting stick seems to be, you have to be really good with the shooting stick, and it seems like that's the only way to make shots. Again, I understand that. So, where I thought they kind of went wrong was just the craziness of how much they boosted the shooting in this hotfix. And so, yeah, even someone says, like, the argument's based on presumption that your shooting wouldn't have improved with practice. It's only been a couple of days, and I wish they would have given it a couple of days to say, hey, you know what? Let's give it a couple more days, see where people are at. And if we need to make adjustments, do it in increments. And even someone said, I can't find the tweet now, but someone had even said, like, yeah, boost the shooting up in increments if you have to. Don't go from 2 out of 10 to 8 out of 10. You know what I mean? So I agree with that sentiment. That's where I'm at as far as this is concerned. If you guys have any sort of comments, let me know down in the comment section, or let me know your opinion, because yeah, I'm curious. And even I'll show this last tweet here. Like someone said, well, because Shake had responded to that person saying, practice what? There's nothing to be done when you were timing it right, and all you're getting is bricked full whites. And DBG had said, like, the devs literally told us to use the stick because the button wasn't going to be good. And someone said, who wants to shoot with the stick? I get that notion, but that's why I think, they were trying to differentiate the best players from the casuals. And if you want to be better, learn how to use the stick. Yeah, basically, to sum it up at the end of this video, I think that they did good with the buff. I understand where they went with only boosting certain difficulties, but I believe they need to tone that down by a bit, as well as tone shooting, or make shooting a little easier on make shooting a little bit easier on Superstar and Hall of Fame, just by a bit. Like I said, just a 1 or 2 increments, and then make shooting a little bit harder on All-Star, Pro, and Rookie. Alright guys, so before ending this video, I wanted to actually input this because as I was editing and basically done with the video, just as I got to the end of this video, DBG had actually responded to me on a tweet because I was responding to someone. Ty, he had put his tweet out, and I even showed that, as I was editing, he put that tweet out about how amazing he was shooting and how bad that was. And, someone was responding saying how Unlimited, if it was affected or not. And someone said, Unlimited is all-star until you get to Galaxy Opals here, which I thought, if that's the case, that's insane, because that basically affects all of Unlimited. And how limited would be, I wouldn't know, because I don't know what the difficulty is. But I got a response from DBG there saying, funnily enough, Unlimited/Limited are on a difficulty called Online Versus, which is actually higher than Hall of Fame, but at the same time was affected by the hotfix, whereas Hall of Fame wasn't. And then he says TTO is on the same sliders as Park Versus, which wasn't affected by the hotfix, because, Park wasn't affected by the hotfix, which, if the Park Versus sliders weren't affected there, it wouldn't affect TTO. But the fact that he says, that it's higher than Hall of Fame, and we're seeing these drastic changes now, is mental. So I think it even just brings more to the point. And even, like I said, I understand the direction they were going with. I like the direction they went with this, but at the same time, it was way too drastic and they have to tone it down. And I think that's just been the whole point of this video. And so just to put that there, but I figured I'd throw this in since I just, it's some brand new information, I guess, for you guys to see before the end of this video. But that's where I stand on it. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.